Hello everyone, welcome to the next Porytiles development update. If you missed the previous one, you can go back on this channel and find it. In this development update, I'm going to just show a couple more features that I've developed since the last update. Porytiles now has the palette packing feature implemented. I've also implemented animation handling, so unlike Porytiles 1, Porytiles 2 allows you to compile and decompile animations, so you can go back and forth between the Porytiles and Porymap formats for animations, and it also generates the animation C code for you, which is pretty helpful. There's still a few features around animation handling that I haven't gotten around to implementing yet, and yeah, a lot of things you'll see in this update, like some of the output format for the error messages, some of the error messages themselves, all of that is subject to change. Exact configuration values probably won't be the same when this eventually releases. But yeah, so let's just go ahead and get started. I'll just do a couple use cases here to show the new features. So I have a clean branch on the expansion project. So we can just sort of pretend like we haven't done any edits now. And the first thing I'll show is Porytiles now allows you to create a new tile set, sort of like Porymap's create tile set functionality. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll see, it's already popping up with the Porytiles2 create tile set. Let's do this. Okay, so you have to give your tile set right now the G tile set variable name like this. I may change this, but this is just how it works at the moment in this particular test version. So if we go ahead and run this command, yeah, we see some printouts. So the palette packing code right now prints these remarks out, and it's showing you what it actually did. Like I was saying in the previous development update, all of these diagnostics will be filterable using the configuration system. So you'll be able to have these different message tags filtered at different levels. You know, if you want warnings to show on one tile set but not another, all of that will be configurable. So don't worry about the fact that you're seeing tons and tons of output when I run these commands. I just have everything on by default right now. I would recommend when you use Porytiles to leave things on by default until you understand what they are and then turn them off. And the main reason for that is that Porytiles is doing a lot of things behind the scenes for you, and it's oftentimes making decisions for you that you might not even know it's making. And I think when you're getting started with the tool, it's actually better to just let it dump all the information on you so you can kind of start to see what it's doing. And once you understand a little bit better how it works, what trade-offs that it makes, what decisions that it makes at different points, you can start turning off the messages that aren't really relevant to your workflow. So anyway, that was a brief aside. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and see what it did. So we can see it created some files. We'll run get status. So now you can see, oh, the tile set anims header file was modified, graphics, headers, metatiles.h were modified. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and run git add with the dot, and let's do a diff, and we can see what Porytiles did. So you can see it created the palette files here. Let's scroll past all the palette files because they're not that interesting. Yep, so there's a few new files here that we'll go over in a second, you can see. But one thing you might notice is that it's actually generating C code for animations. So when you run create tile set, Porytiles just creates this fun little default tile set for you. So it's just like a very simple demo tile set. It has grass and a flower and tall grass, and that's it. And the tall grass has one attribute, and it's really just there to kind of like introduce you to the different features Porytiles has. You can obviously, when you create a new tile set, replace all these assets with your own assets or whatever. It's just here as an example. So yeah, and it includes this flower animation. You can see here with Porytiles, you don't have to name the frames numbers. You can just name them whatever you want. Excuse me. And the animations here are configured with the YAML file. So here we're just telling Porytiles, hey, we've got this animation called flower. It has 3 frames, center, right, and left. And here's the frame order for the animation: center, right, center, left. You'll also see here we've retained the keyframe concept from Porytiles 1. So that still exists. The keyframe can really be anything. It no longer has that restriction in Porytiles 1 where the keyframe has to contain all the colors across all the other frames. You don't have to do that anymore. The keyframe can just be whatever you want. Just all the keyframe subtiles do need to be unique across all your animations. Otherwise, Porytiles wouldn't know which animation to link up in which spot. But that's really the only restriction. And I will be providing a way to not have keyframes if you would rather just hard code your animation offsets. So I don't have that implemented, so I can't show it here right now. Only the keyframe linking is implemented. But that is something we will have in the final version for those who just don't want to deal with the keyframes and they just want to say, hey, metatile 12 should use animation tile index, whatever, 2 with this flip setting or something like that. You'll be able to do that too if you'd rather just do that. So anyway, this is the test tile set that was created, and like we were showing here, this is the C code that Porytiles generated, and it did this based off of that YAML file that I showed you here. So these definitions here are basically telling it what it should be generating in the C code. So the frame definitions are here, and then this is the frame order. And then the QAnim tiles function gets generated. This offset is computed by Porytiles. So Porytiles will intelligently try to place your animation tiles in your tiles.png depending on your artifact edit mode. So that's something we saw last time with the tiles.png. You can set it to optimize and it'll just pack the tiles tightly. If you're importing and then building an existing tile set, you can set it to patch and it actually won't shuffle your tiles around. It'll leave them in place and try to reuse them. So this number will be intelligently computed based on how your tiles are set up. So yeah, and then you are also able to adjust this number here. There's a configuration for that, which we'll see in a bit. But right now it's just the default 0 because I didn't specify anything in the YAML file. So yep, that's it. And then Porytiles will also automatically wire up all your animations. So it adds this declaration to the include file that you need. And then it also goes ahead and updates all the tile set struct data. So here it's like declaring all your palettes and your tiles PNG or 4 bits per pixel file. It sets up the tile set header. So this is stuff that Porymap normally does, and you can still use Porymap to create tile sets if you want, but Porytiles just also now provides a create tile set command for your convenience. And then yeah, lastly at the end here, tilesetanims.c is normally where the anim code goes. So what Porytiles does is it just adds an include to the bottom that points to where Porytiles places this generated anim code header file. So basically every time you create a new tile set with animations or import an existing tile set that has animations, you're going to get a generated anim code file, and then you're going to get an include added down here. So it should all just work out of the box. So anyway, all right, we've created the tile set, and it should be ready to go. So if we go to Porymap, we can refresh. Okay, so this is just a blank slate project. Let's just make a new map to show the new tile set. New map, let's make it really fast. Test map. I always like giving it custom music, and I like the Duford Town music. So let's go with that. And let's change the tile set here, because you'll now see that there's a Porytiles test 1 tile set. So if we click OK, cool. Now we're here, and we can see here's our Porytiles test 1 tile set tiles that I showed. Let's just go ahead and put a bunch of random stuff here. And we'll put some grass here. And then we'll save. And if we come over here, I did build already, so this should be pretty quick. If it takes too long, I might include a cut in this video, so that might be awkward because I'm not totally sure how to do that in iMovie, so we'll see. Or I might just kind of awkwardly talk through this while it builds. Please build faster. So you can probably click the right arrow on your YouTube video here. I think it needs to rebuild all of these when you add a map, so that's kind of annoying. Okay, here we go. So it should be done. Let's go ahead and run it, and let's see. My apologies if this is extremely loud. Okay, we're just going to mute that. Sorry. I'm so sorry if you were wearing headphones and that was really loud. Okay, so let's just go ahead and teleport to that map we added. So here we go. And here's the map. So you can see the animations are working out of the box just fine. These have that metal. Oh, I forgot to set the border for the map, so you're just seeing garbage, but whatever. These have that behavior, the tall grass behavior, and that was because the default assets when you create a tile set, they go ahead and set this to tall grass, I think. And why is it using Excel? Can you just use a text editor, please? Oh my goodness. Sorry, super low production value here. Text edit. Change all. Thank you. Yes, I do want to do that because I don't need to open it in Excel. Okay. Let's just see. Yeah. So this is what the same attribute CSV that you've seen before. So that's why that was tall grass. So yeah, that's kind of neat. Flowers are working out of the box. Let's go ahead and close this really quick, and I'll just show how you can create an edit. So before I do that, one thing I should show. Porytiles now creates this folder in your project called Porytiles, and this is sort of it's kind of a folder for configurations and different files that Porytiles needs to kind of keep track of what it's doing in your project. There are a lot of different files that you'll actually see in here if you go ahead and list it. So by default, you should just see, there's a config local YAML. So last time I kind of showed you that there's that Porytiles YAML file. I've changed the name. The .local just means it's your local version. It takes precedence over the one without .local. So that's common with a lot of CLI tools. Normally what you do is you git ignore the .local version. So that way you can have something that overrides whatever your team project settings are. Anyway, there's a tile sets folder here, and that's where Porytiles keeps track of which tile sets it's managing. So Porytiles now has this concept of a Porytiles managed tile set. So anything that Porytiles is managing, it will have its own folder in here. I think I forgot to clear this, so this is a little bit confusing. Anyway, there's other tile sets in here because I forgot to clear this out when I was working on it before. But Porytiles test 1 is the one we just made. So what you should see in here are two files. Tileset cache JSON. This just caches your artifact checksums. I think we showed that last time. Porytiles will try not to clobber edits that you've made, and it keeps track of your different artifact checksums in this file. Tileset manifest.json. This one is the important one. This is what tells Porytiles that this tileset is managed by Porytiles. So if we list it, you'll see for this, it says imported false, and then there's just a version for the schema. But imported false is just saying, hey, this tileset's managed by Porytiles, and it was created by Porytiles. It wasn't pre-existing in the project. So you'll want to commit this file to share with anyone else that you're working with, because this file is telling Porytiles, hey, this is a Porytiles managed tile set. It's very important that it exists if you want Porytiles to work correctly. You also may have noticed that when you have a Porytiles managed tile set, Porytiles puts its assets in this source and bin folder. For tile sets that you've created from scratch, you're just only going to have these two folders, but we'll see an example of importing a tile set in a moment. And you'll see that Porytiles is surgical. It won't overwrite or delete the other assets that are existing. It just creates net new ones and then points Porymap to the new ones. So that's pretty much how it's working. So let's make an edit here just to show off how that works. Let's change the animation since that's kind of the new feature that we're talking about in this video. So, okay, right now we've got the frames. Let's change the frame order. We've got center right, center left. Let's just add, I don't know, another center left, another center left, and then a center left. So I don't know, whatever. The flower is going to look weird. So we added a bunch of these. Let's also go ahead and just put some weird artwork on the right animation of the flower. So we'll open it in our sprite editor. Let's just, I don't know, add some new colors here. I'm just going to make this look, this is going to look terrible, but you'll see it reflect in game that it's updated just for demonstration purposes. So, yeah, let's just, I don't know, whatever. Let's just scribble a bunch of purple on the flower here. Now notice I don't actually have to edit my keyframe and everything will work. So in Porytiles 1, you would have had to add this purple color to your keyframe in the appropriate subtiles. You no longer need to do that. It's much simpler now. So let's go ahead and rebuild the tile set. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to go into my global config that's here. Okay, So I've got verify checksums false. I'm going to set that to true just so we can see how it works. And I'm going to set, this is something that I'm going to show off next, but let's ignore that for now. Let's set the tiles and then the edit mode to optimize. So you saw this in the last video if you watched the previous one. There's different edit modes. We'll see the non-optimized edit modes in the next example. So let's just set it to optimize for now by default. So this configuration file I just set in the Porytiles folder, this is a lower priority configuration file. You can also set configuration files within a specific tileset folder, and those will take precedence. So if I were to create another config file within this Porytiles test 1 tileset folder, then when compiling Porytiles test 1, it would take precedence over this config file. But since we don't have one there, this config file is what Porytiles is going to load. And it also does it on a per config value basis. So if this Porytiles test 1 tileset specific config file overrides config key foo, and this one overrides config key bar, then Porytiles will build them together. So that's what's really nice, is you can have a really nice default config, and then you can override just very specific things in your specific tile sets if you want, without having to copy and paste the whole config every time. So it's layered, which is super helpful. Anyway, okay, so let's go ahead and compile the tile set. I'm just rambling all over the place in this video. I apologize. I think we called it G tile set. It was Porytiles test 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so again, we just saw the palette packing results. So here's that new color we added. It just goes ahead and packs it into the first palette since there was still room. You're seeing a little remark, and it's just basically telling you that, oh, it already found the animation include and declaration, so it doesn't need to do it again. Again, like I said, you can start muting some of these once you understand what they are. But cool. So let's go ahead and just rebuild the project. And this should be faster this time, hopefully. And let's go ahead and launch the game again. Good, it's still muted. Apologies if I blew your eardrums out earlier again. Okay, we'll go to that test map again, and we should see our changes here. So, all right. Now, oh, yep, there it is. So now you can see the flower it's bonking to the left 3 times, and then when it goes right, it shows our really weird, ugly scribble that we did. So, yeah, there's an example of how you can super easily edit the animations and then just recompile them with Porytiles. And it's a bit more sophisticated than Porytiles 1. And if we actually go ahead and run the diff here, let me go ahead and show the git diff. So, okay, well, yeah, we don't care about the map diff, but let's see. Yeah, so what you can see is that, okay, we changed the frame order in the YAML file, and we added these. And you can actually see that here in the generated anim code, it went ahead and added all of our new frames to this array here for us. So you don't really need to touch the animation C code again. You can just use the YAML file to configure pretty much anything you would want in here. The one caveat is I haven't yet implemented handling for those V-dest animations, which in Pokemon Emerald, some of the secondary tile sets use this animation style. I am going to implement handling for those, but that's going to come a little bit later. Sorry, I'm just drinking some coffee here. So probably not going to show that for a little while yet, but I will try to implement handling for that. So, okay. All right, let's go ahead and just clear all of this now. And let's show the import feature. Okay, so cleared all that. That's all gone. Let's do this. Let me also delete those other files that were in here because that was kind of confusing, to be honest. I'm just going to delete all this. Okay, so let's just check our config. Okay, we had, yeah, this was our default, and then let me go ahead and I'm going to actually remove this for now because I want to show off how this kind of works here. Okay, so let's save it. Okay, so last time I kind of showed off importing the general tile set. We're going to do that again. So in Porytiles, when you do an import is the command that you run to bring a tile set that wasn't managed by Porytiles into Porytiles management. So what we're doing here with the general tile set, since it already exists in the project, we don't do create tile set, which creates a new one. we do import, which imports an existing one into the Porytiles system. So let's go ahead and run this command, and it's actually going to fail, and we'll see why. Any of you who have worked with the general tileset animations will know that there's a lot of weird gotchas with it, so that's kind of why it fails. So let's run it. Okay, so we're going to see some error messages. Okay, it says it failed to import it, the decompile job failed, and it failed to decompile land, water, edge. And why is that? It failed to find a palette for land, water, edge. So it turns out this animation is not ever referenced from within the primary tileset general. I think it's referenced in one of the other maps. It's like Moss Deep City or something. But because Porytiles at the moment is not able by default to look through all your other tile sets or figure anything out, by default, when it can't find a palette for the animation in the meta tiles for that tile set, its default configuration is just to error out. So that's what you're seeing here. It's saying, hey, this animation tile index range was not referenced anywhere in the meta tiles. Your default configuration is just to error when you hit this case, and so that's what it's telling you, that it errored. I'm leaving that as the default because this is not a very common scenario, and I do want Porytiles to notify you if this is happening. Now that we've seen, oh, okay, this is an error, you know, you as the user are like, oh yeah, I know, I made the animation that way, it's supposed to work that way, or something like that. Or maybe if you're decompiling this tile set, you know, hey, this is the general tile set, I know it's supposed to do this. Now we can go ahead and configure it. So let's go ahead and open the configuration file. And you kind of already saw this earlier because it was in the file and I left it, but okay, that's annoying. Thank you, macOS. So let's go ahead and add the animation section, and it's called the palette resolution strategy. So right now, this only supports two values. It supports error, which is what we saw, and then internal PNG pal. So if you set this strategy, I think it's palette. We'll find out. It'll give me an error if that's wrong. If you set internal PNG palette, then what it'll do is it'll look at the quote-unquote representative frame of the animation, which I believe is usually just the first one in the folder. So if we go here, we go to anim, we go to land, water, edge. If you set internal PNG palette, Porytiles will just look at 0.png's internal ping palette, and it'll try to use those colors, and it will try to match them against one of the tileset palettes. So in this case, this internal palette, actually, I think it matches tileset palette 3 or 4. So Porytiles will end up finding that and matching it. If you do something weird, like if these 3 frames all have different internal palettes, then the strategy will fail. These 3 have to have the same internal palette, and then it's just going to pick the first PNG to actually resolve. So anyway, let's go ahead and save. And we're going to get a new error, but, oops, that's not what we wanted. Okay, let's try importing it again. So we'll run again. Cool, okay, so now what we should see is that this at least worked. It said, hey, animation land and water edge wasn't referenced, but now it says, hey, you're using internal PNG palette, and it gives you a little information here that animation land, water edge, representative frame, internal palette, it actually matched Porymap palette 03.pal, and it's showing you that. So that worked. And now we're getting an import failure error because of a different animation problem. So we resolved that error by using this configuration setting. And one thing I should note, there will be another configuration setting called, I believe, I'm going to call it something like scan all tile sets or something like that. And what that will do is instead of using the internal ping palette, it'll instead actually scan all the other tile sets in your project and see if any of them reference in to those to that tile range in the primary tile set. And if one of them does, it'll just try to use that palette. So that will be another option available to you if you'd rather have it do that. And it can use the layout.jsons file to see which tile sets are actually paired with that primary tile set in your project. And then it can only search in those, and then it might see like, oh, hey, in Moss Deep, this tile range is actually referenced, and it's using palette 3, and it would resolve it that way. So that will be another way that you can resolve this problem when you're decompiling an animation. Okay, so anyway, new error. So same start of the message, failed to import, decompile job failed. This time it's failing to decompile sand, water, edge. And the reason for that is there's duplicate keyframe tiles. So it's telling you which ones are duplicate, and the keyframe tiles, when you're decompiling an animation, are coming from tiles.png. So it turns out that the vanilla game, when you look at the tiles.png, let's open it in our sprite editor, and we can see. It turns out that these are the animation tile ranges for water, and I believe sand, water, edge is here. Actually, let's do this in Porymap, because it's going to be way easier to show you what's going on in Porymap. So instead of looking at that. Okay, so yeah, let's look at them here. So here's the sand, water, edge one. It turns out that some of these are actually duplicates, which is super annoying if you're trying to create a tool that can do a decompilation, because as I mentioned earlier, keyframes can't have duplicates for obvious reasons. So yeah, palette 5 is what it's using. But yeah, you can see this tile here is a duplicate of this one. They're both just like the same color sand. And then I believe this tile here is a duplicate of this one. So that's what it's telling you is like, hey, I can't decompile this because if I do, your keyframe is going to end up having duplicate tiles. And then when you go to recompile, you're going to get an error. So that's what it's telling you. And your keyframe can't have duplicate tiles because, like I said before, if your keyframe has duplicate subtiles, then when Porytiles encounters a keyframe on your layer PNGs, it won't actually know which index it's supposed to go to, right? It's ambiguous at that point. It's like a map. It needs to have exactly one value for one key. So that's what that error message is telling you. And it's saying that your anim keyframe resolution strategy is currently configured to just error out, and that's the default, and so that's why you're seeing this error. Now, there's a little note here. Consider using the mangle strategy to auto-resolve. So right now, there's only one strategy to resolve this error, which is the mangle strategy. And what the mangle strategy does is it just intelligently flips pixels in the keyframe until you no longer have a uniqueness problem. So some of you who are using Porytiles2, you may have been doing this manually to get around this problem if you were trying to compile water animations. I know some of you did that. You would like flip a pixel color in the corner of one of the water tiles so that it was unique but didn't look super different. Well, now Porytiles is basically just doing that intelligently, automatically for you. I will include another strategy here, and I had mentioned how Porytiles will support compiling animations without keyframes. So I'll probably have another strategy called manual override. And instead of resolving the duplicates, what it'll do is it'll just figure out all the places this animation is referenced, and it will just generate the manual override configuration for you and stick that in your decompiled animation.yaml file or whatever. And that'll be another way to do it, and it won't generate a keyframe. So if you go that route, then to update the animation, you'd have to actually manually update the override configuration. So I can't show that because I haven't implemented it. Right now, the only thing implemented is mangle. So let's just go ahead and show that. So I'll come down to the animations configuration, and it's keyframe resolution strategy and mangle. So let's go ahead and input that, save. Okay, so good. What we'll show here is what actually ends up happening. It's kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and run it. Okay, boom. All right, so ton more output now. So here's that same output about the land, water, edge, but now we see there's new output here. It's saying, hey, I mangled tile 3 in sand, water, edge. Here's the original tile, and here's the mangled tile. So as you can see, this was one of those duplicate tiles where it was just a solid color, like I showed a minute ago. And now what it's done is it's gone ahead and added this little pixel in the corner. So the mangler is intelligent, and because we've already resolved the palette, so that happens first, right? We've resolved the palette for this animation. We have all the colors that are available in the palette the animation is going to be using. So the mangler will just pick one of them, and it tries to pick the closest one to the pixel it's replacing. It uses like a Euclidean distance algorithm. And it just tries to edit corners first, and then I think after corners it does edges, and I think only after all of those options are exhausted will it try to do like tiles in the center. So yeah, so you can see here it mangled this by putting that in the center. Then you can see here this one, in order to deduplicate it, it went ahead and added a little dot here. And the reason it didn't put it in the corner is because it would make it a flip equivalent. So if we had put it, let's say, like in the other corner, then you would still have the tile duplication problem because they would be equivalent under flip transformation. So that's why I offset it here. So anyway, that's what it's doing. Now these two tiles are unique, and you no longer have the keyframe uniqueness issue. And then same thing here. What it's showing is that this was one of the other duplicates. So you can see here it just went ahead and added this little pixel to the corner. And same thing for water. Water has more duplicates, but yeah, anyway. What it's showing you is what it did. Really subtle change to the corner color here. This one, it added this corner pixel here in order to make it unique. So yeah, if we come over here to this and we reload, now that it worked, let's look at the general tile set. So see here now, in the general tile set, all these assets are still here. It didn't touch them. Porytiles won't touch them. But the assets that Porymap is now actually pointing to are in our managed folders, Porytiles bin and Porytiles source. So that's important to understand. And I'll show you really quick too, if we look at the manifest, so if you recall, the Porytiles managed tile sets always have a manifest. So let's look at those. You can see there's a manifest in here. If we open it, this one says imported true as opposed to imported false. And what these fields are they're showing you what the callback, what the attributes, what the palettes were before the import. At some point I might be supporting like a restore command, and so what I did is I just saved the field names for now in order to support that. Because you can see what it did is it created a new Porytiles managed version of these asset arrays. So it actually doesn't touch the original ones. It just creates a new one, and then it just repoints everything to point to the managed assets. So, like I said, it tries to be surgical. It won't clobber your previous stuff. It'll just kind of add new stuff and make surgical edits to point everything at the new stuff. Anyway, so if we look at the tiles now, you can actually see the, if you look really carefully, you can see the mangles. They're kind of hard to see, but let's like zoom in. We can kind of see them. If we zoom in far enough, scroll down really far here. Where'd we go? Where is it? I lost. Okay, yeah. So here's the sand one. See, now you can see this sand tile has that pixel in the corner there, the sand water edge. And let's see if we go to I think the water palette is 4, yeah. So if we go to the water palette here, we should be able to see, oh, I see how it zoomed, okay. Yeah, so you can see here some of these tiles now have the little mangled pixels in them. So, okay, so the import was successful. And it actually successfully mangled tiles.png. Let's go ahead and look at the assets it generated. So if we look here in our Porytiles source folder for general, here we've got our top, middle, and bottom PNGs. So you've probably seen this before if you've tried decompiling with Porytiles. Here's the attributes file. You can see it's got all the meta tiles that have custom attributes, so that's kind of fun. Now there's an anim folder, so this is new. You wouldn't have seen this before when decompiling a tile set with Porytiles. The anim.yaml here looks pretty similar to the one we've already seen. Let me zoom a bit. So you got flower with the 3 frames and the frame order. Now you see there's this frame offset value. That's the modulo that you see in the generated anim code. So if we do this, I can go ahead and show it. Let's see here, generated anim code. Here it is. So this is a generated code that Porytiles created. That frame offset is this value here in the modulo. So my understanding is that this just makes it so that the animations don't all update on the same frame, because that looks kind of weird. So you can kind of offset which frame they update on, and you can just set that by setting this value to whatever. By default, it's 0, but if you include it and set it, then it'll put it here. So, and it'll create more if branches for you. And if, let's say you want like 3 of them to have the same frame offset, you can do that, and then it'll just put all 3 of these queue functions in the same if branch. So that's kind of how that works. And I'll show that in a second, because we're going to recompile this tile set. But yeah, we can also see, like, if we go to water here, you can see here that you've got the nice water animation, and if you remember, the keyframe, it doesn't actually match any of the animation frames, and that's fine. That will work perfectly fine. And this is actually going to be our mangled keyframe. So if we go ahead and open this in our sprite editor, and we zoom in a little bit, we should see our tile mangles that Porytiles did. Yep, see? So like here's that mangled tile that the output showed, how it put that little pixel in the corner there to mangle it so that it was different from this one. And I think it probably mangled a couple other ones, but yeah, like this one I think it mangled also. So anyway, that's there in your keyframe now. So we should be able to recompile. Okay, so let's recompile it. Let's do this. The first thing we want to do, because if you recall, in our global config, we have tiles and palettes set to optimize. Since we're recompiling general, we don't want to do that. We don't want to optimize the tiles and palettes because that will screw up any secondary tile set that's depending on general. So let's go ahead and create a new config file in our tile set general folder here. And this will override any of our previous config settings for general. So what we want to do is we just want to override the edit modes. So we'll do tiles, and then edit mode. So edit mode for tiles, we can do patch. So if you watch the previous development update, I think what patch did is it allows Porytiles to add new tiles to the blank spaces in the tiles.png if necessary, but it won't actually wipe any of the existing tiles. And then if we do palettes, we're going to set the edit mode for palettes to locked. So what this does is it doesn't allow you to add any new colors. So if you go ahead and edit your layer PNGs and accidentally introduce a color that's not in the original Porymap palettes that are here in the palettes folder, you're going to get a nice error message. And again, if you saw the previous development update, you saw what that looks like. So anyway, let's set that for general. And let's just go ahead and compile general really quick. Should compile no problem. G tile set general. So if we compile it, okay, yeah, actually we're going to get this message that there's no changes found because we did an import, everything is matching, and it went ahead and saved the checksums, and so now there's actually nothing for Porytiles to do. So in order to get it to actually do a compilation, we need to touch one of the assets. So let's do that. Let's try doing this first. Let's touch one of the assets. Let's go to the flower. And let's change the, let's change the right frame, kind of like how we did before. So I'm in the Porytiles component, anim flower 1.png. I'll open it in ASprite. Now, I can't introduce new colors because we've locked the palette, so we need to be careful not to do that. So I'm just going to take this petal color and just scribble it everywhere. Again, I'm not an artist. I've made this tool for artists, but I do not count myself among the ranks of artists, so apologies for the ugliness. But anyway, there's the edit. Let's also go ahead and update anim.yaml, and let's kind of do like what we did before with the flower. Let's have the left-facing flower just like repeat a bunch of times just so we can see what happens. Okay, so let's go here. Did I do that? Yeah. Okay, so we should be able to actually see the diff that it generates now when we do the compilation. So let's hit compile, and we should see something happen. Oh yeah, by the way, before we do this compilation, the general tile set after the import is basically unchanged. So you could build your game and go into any of these maps, and it would look totally normal. So anyway, let's compile it. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. So one of the general tile set palettes, it violates a Porytiles rule. So let me go ahead and find it. It's this one, I think. Yeah. Okay. So you can't have the extrinsic transparency color in the Porymap palettes. Otherwise, it makes Porytiles very confused. That'll be explained. There's a reason for that. It's logical. But anyway, so that was what that error was telling me. So I just went ahead and fixed it. So let's try this again. Let's see, what's the problem here? Oh, right. Huh. Okay, so this is my own system catching me. So we saw this last time. If you change one of the Porymap assets, but then you try to do a compilation, you're going to get an error because Porytiles doesn't want to clobber edits that you make. By default, it's going to be like, hey, if you made a change to a Porymap asset and you try to do a compile, it'll detect that and be like, hey, maybe you should go ahead and bring this into your Porytiles assets before you just clobber everything. So normally what I do when I'm demoing this is I'll just set verify checksums to false. But let's go ahead and see. We should be able to decompile. Decompile tile set. So decompile is what you use for tile sets that are already part of Porytiles. And it basically forces their Porytiles component to match the Porymap component. So let's run this. Oh, sorry. Porytiles2, not 1. Cool. Oh, right, but I made the flower changes. Okay. All right, so we've just got ourselves stuck here. This is something you may run into when you use Porytiles. If you edit stuff in both components and you get stuck, easiest way to fix this will be to just go ahead and set this to false and just let it clobber. So let's do that. You'll be able to do this at the command line. You won't have to do this in the YAML file if you just want to do it at the command line. I just haven't implemented the command line arguments yet. But anyway, all right, let's just go back to compiling here. So compile tile set, let's run it. All right, there we go, it worked. Sorry for the weird delay here with all my issues. Cool, so let's go ahead and look at the diff. Look at the diff, and the important thing with the diff that we see is that, okay, yeah, because we changed this file. Oh, whoops, actually, let me do this diff, because this is going to be more helpful. Yeah, so we can see now that the generated anim code, the frames got updated here. And we can see here that this is the palette update that we made, just fixing those colors. But yeah, let's go ahead and make the game. And we should be able to just go to any map that has that flower and see our updates. We just have to wait for the build again. So get an insert Final Jeopardy music here while we wait. And we're only on M. This is taking forever. Anyway, reload the project, but there's not actually really going to be anything to show here because all we changed was one of the flower frames. What you're seeing here is the flower keyframe, because this is showing what's actually on tiles.png, which I guess I'll just show while we're waiting for it to compile. So Porytiles does support the true color thing that Porytiles1 had, so it's got that again. So anyway, should be, yep, see, you can see our mangles here. So okay, all right, we're done now. Okay, so let's go ahead and run the game, and let's teleport to, I think Petalburg City probably has flowers. Let's see. Yep. Oh, there's our flower. Cool. Oh, so there it is. See? So you can see it goes left 3 times, and then when it goes right, instead of, looking nice, it has my scribble. So that's the updated flower. So that's kind of cool. Let's go ahead and close this. Let's just make like one more edit. Let's see. So let me close this thing, and let's update some of those animations that had the mangling going on. So if you go to the Porytiles source folder and let's go to Sandwater Edge. Yeah, let's just open this one, and let's see. I'm just gonna like make the whole thing blue for one of the frames. So this is not really, again, not a good edit for artistic purposes, but good enough to demo. And then for water, let's also just make one of the frames like all one color, and it should be really easy to see that the edits are working. Okay, so let's just do this, save it. Okay, so let's go back here. If we do another build, there we go. All right, boom. That was working. So let's rebuild the project. It's gonna be faster. Okay, so let's launch the game. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. I think if we go to Slateport City, we should be able to see all these changes pretty easily. So, yeah, so you can already see that the water there is working differently. But let me go down to the beach, because then we can see the sand tiles that we changed. Just gotta be careful because there's this guy that wants to battle, and I have like no Pokemon, and so it just crashes the game. Anyway, yeah, so there you can see the sand. You can see my one frame there that I changed is showing up, and you can also see the water is showing the solid color frame here. So, yeah, that's pretty nice. So, yeah, there you go. That's how you can edit animations super easily. I'm going to show one more thing before closing off this video. So, the last thing I want to show is that I think I mentioned this in the previous video, but Porytiles really wants to allow you to kind of seamlessly transition between using Porymap and Porytiles to edit assets. So that's why the compilation decompilation has that clobber prevention mechanism, and it's also why it's supposed to be totally lossless back and forth. So let's just say, here we made a bunch of edits on the Porytile side, right? We edited all of our source assets. We added a animation. or we changed animation frames, we changed the animation components. Now say we want to edit some of the attributes, and I don't know, maybe for whatever reason you don't want to use a CSV, you're just kind of doing it in Porymap here. So let's just kind of show that. So, say we wanted to make the flowers have a new behavior. Like, okay, we come in here, and you guys have probably done this before. You edit the behavior right here in Porymap. So, tall grass. Let's just make the flowers tall grass, and let's save it. So let's go back here. And I'm going to actually turn the checksum verification back on. So let's do true. Good. Okay. Actually, what I'm going to do really quick, just to show how this works. Oops, no, not that. It was normal before. Save it. Okay. So if we try to do a compile right now, we should just see no changes found, right? Because we just did that compile for the slate port, water assets, everything worked. Now there's no changes, so if we compile with the checksum verification, it's just going to tell us, hey, there's nothing to actually do. Great, okay. So now let's go ahead and change the flower to tall grass, not long grass, tall grass. Save, okay. If we try to run compile now, we're going to get that error. It's going to say, hey, I don't want to compile because I'm going to clobber something in meta-tile-attributes.bin that I haven't seen, right? So the checksums don't match anymore. Okay, great. So that's fine. What we should do is then decompile. So let's go ahead and put a decompile here. And that will actually bring the Pory map format assets into Porytile. So if we look at the attributes here, right now, there's no entry for flower, right? Flower is like metatile 4 or something. So you can see here it starts at 13. So let's just go ahead and run decompile. Cool, everything worked. Just some of the remarks about the palette resolution again that we saw. But if we go ahead and open this now, oh, look, see, 4 showed up with tall grass. So that was our edit. So that showed up. And if we want to rebuild the game, we can just do that and we can see the change. And is it really going to, okay, good. It's not going to do all the C files again. Things driving me crazy. Okay, so yeah, if we go to, I think, Petalburg City again, there's flowers there. They should now have the tall grass. Yeah, see, because we gave them that behavior, they do the tall grass thing. So there you go. So that's how you make an edit on the Porymap side and then import it into Porytiles. And you can do all kinds of stuff. Like, you could get pretty sophisticated. If you really love painting the meta tiles or you just kind of enjoy doing that, like, you can do stuff in Porymap. Like, I don't know, let's just do this. I think this is... Actually, I guess that's not really how it works. I haven't done this in so long because I just use Porytiles. I don't know. Let's like mess up the roof here, like that, and I don't know. Here, let's make it look like a tree. I don't know. Whatever. This again, the artistic value here is very low. Okay, this is just a demo. Whoops, wrong layer. Okay, I don't know. Let's do that. So we'll save that, and if we do a decompile, actually, show you. If we do a compile, we're going to get that error again. It's going to say that our metatiles.bin has changed. So let's do a decompile. If we come over here and we look at our middle.png, or it might have been, yeah, so you can see here, there's the tree that I stuck in there. So now it's showing up in Porytiles, which is what you wanted. And if we rebuild the game, excuse me, and rerun it, you'll see that those changes are there. The Poke Center, whatever, changes. Petalburg City again. Let's go find, where's the Pokemon Center? There it is. Okay, and there's our stupid change where we put the tree on the roof. Okay, so that's it. Cool. So, again, apologies for this really super long, rambly video. I think I covered pretty much everything I wanted to show here, at least. Oh, yeah, there was one more thing I'll show, I guess, just kind of random. But anyway, we had the palettes. They were locked, if you remember, when we were doing this, because we're editing general. So it's actually a really nice feature. If you try to add a color to one of your frames, that's not available. So let's, oh, whoops, wrong folder. See? Okay, so let's come over to flower, for example, and let's see, this is the one we edited, it was 1. Let's go ahead and edit 0. So let's say you're kind of working on an animation, and let's say you accidentally introduce like a new color that's not actually present in the palette that, in the palette the flower animation is using. Since we have palettes locked, that's going to actually not be allowed. So, okay, I'm just going to pick some random color that I know is not present, so I don't know. It's like a weird purpley color. So I don't know, maybe I was like, oh, I'm putting some cute little daisies here or something. I don't know, whatever. Again, not artwork, not my thing. If we go ahead and do a compile, actually, I'll show you this. If we do a decompile, we're going to get an error. Or not. Did I do that right? Do I have a bug? Did I just discover a bug? It's possible I just discovered a bug. No. Should be getting an error. Oh, whoops, I edited the wrong thing. It's because I edited, oh crap, okay. I'm dumb. I edited the Pory map version. That's why decompiling worked. Sorry, wrong thing. We want to edit the Porytiles version, not the Pory map version. Oh, well, there we go. Look, our decompile did work. Look at that. Okay, so I thought it was a bug and it wasn't. It was just me being dumb, and Porytiles is smarter than me. So, okay. I accidentally edited the Pory map version and then decompiled it, and it shows up in the Porytiles component. So that's actually what we wanted. Let's go ahead and compile, and what we're going to see is that there's no changes because now the Pory map and Porytiles assets match. So, okay. Okay, this is a fun demo. Let's edit this one more time so that way the checksums change and it will recompile. Okay. Oh, it made it transparent. That's really interesting, actually. You know what? I think I know what happened. It's because I screwed up the internal palette on the Pory map side. Okay, I'm going to have to add some kind of warning or error message when you do something weird like that. So I'm glad I'm discovering bugs while I demo. This is great. So it is sort of a bug. Okay, anyway, so here's what I was trying to do initially, is add a purple that's not actually present in the palettes. And let's go ahead and do a compile. Okay, well, hold on. Decompile. All right, now we're getting the warning I initially was trying to show. If I try to decompile and I have a change on the Porytile side, it won't let me. Okay, all right, anyway, let's compile it. Cool, we get an error, right? And so the reason we get an error is it's saying, hey, animation flower, composite subtile 0. So composite subtile just means what it's actually doing is it's taking subtile 0 in all 3 of these frames, and it's summing all the colors that are present in that subtile together to generate what it calls a composite subtile. And that's because a specific subtile in an animation has to use exactly one palette, and that's because the metatile entries are fixed. So, and you can only have one palette per metatile entry, as you all know. So anyway, what that's telling you is it couldn't find a matching palette for that subtile, and it's just showing you, hey, like all these colors are present in palette 2, but palette 2 was missing this color, and that's the purple color that we added. So it's showing you the closest match. And it says closest N because I was going to make it configurable, but probably just show the top match. I don't know. You guys can give me feedback if you want to be able to see the top N matches for something like this. But this is what's really nice about the locked palettes mode. You know, with Porytiles 1 right now, if you decompile a tile set and then you bring in the Porymap palettes as palette overrides, and then you start making changes, if you accidentally introduce like a color that's not present, you just get that search matrix error with no helpful information about what you did wrong. With Porytiles2, if you lock the palettes, then you get super detailed information about like exactly which color you added that it can't go ahead and use, and it'll even show you which palette was close. And so it's going to be much more helpful for doing edits like this. So anyway, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to show. You know, super excited to get this out to you guys. I still have quite a bit to do before the official release. I need to implement secondary tile set compilation. So there's that. There's definitely bugs that I'm fixing. And there's just like a few more quality of life features. Like I said, I don't have the command line arguments working yet. So just little things like that and cleanup. So, you know, hopefully pretty soon here in the next couple months, we'll get the initial 2.0.0 version out and you guys can start finding bugs. And I'm definitely going to keep adding features like the layout compilation feature that I keep talking about. That'll be coming probably in a post 2.0 version at some point. So, yeah. And really excited too because this new functionality is going to allow you to use Porytiles to edit the vanilla tile sets, which isn't something that was possible with Porytiles before. So yeah, you know, hope you guys enjoyed this development update, and you know, please feel free to reach out on the Discord if you have questions or anything. We're in the Porytiles channel, I think in the Pret server. So, yep, you can always ask questions there, and this code is all there in the repository. So if you want to look at it or you want to clone the repo and build it yourself, like you can use this. You just have to figure out how to do the build because I don't have release binaries at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for using Porytiles, and I'll see y'all in the next development update, which will hopefully be the last one before the 2.0.0 release.